Hey, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday, and the first half hour of what am I doing? It's Tuesday. It's not Monday. I'm not excited. The first half hour is sponsored by Bitterroot Motors, doing it right for more than 42 years. Temp Ride Service, call Team Blue 728-1111, and by our friends at the Mustard Seed. I'm so sorry I allowed my natural enthusiasm for Monday to leak into Tuesday. My humble apologies if I offended anyone.
And it looks like someone just deflated your football because you are... So I have to ask now.
Yes.
Are Tuesdays like your Mondays as the rest of the world experiences them? A day where...
Tuesday is the Millard Fillmore day of the week.
Okay.
Gets no respect at all.
So is Saturday the worst day of the week?
I don't have a worse day. I just like Monday more than the other days.
Okay.
That okay, John?
No, it makes no. I'm sure psychologists across the world are wondering.
They're puzzling. They're getting out their Freud books. Is he Freudian? Is he Jungian? I don't know. Okay, I have a story here, and I really wanted to bring this up to our wonderful and wise listenership because I really want to get your opinion on this. This is really something. This is from the wires of the Associated Press. Certain welfare applicants would be required to take drug tests under legislation proposed here in Montana. Republican Representative Randy Pinocci of Sun River, obviously a nice Irish fellow, introduced the bill in the House Human Services Committee on Monday. He says thousands of Montanans, now this is where it gets interesting. He says thousands of Montanans asked him to sponsor the bill and that the goal is to protect children. I'd like to get him on the phone and ask him about that. House Bill 200 would require people to apply for assistance under the state's Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program to fill out a drug abuse questionnaire. Do you take drugs? Yeah, sure do. Okay. The applicant would then have to take a drug test if staff determines a problem could be likely. Yep, you look like a druggie to me. Okay, people who test positive for drugs would not receive benefits unless they agree to complete a 30-day treatment program. Those who refuse to fill out the questionnaire would not receive public assistance under the measure. So I want to find out what you think. Is this a good idea? 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. This is the idea of Representative Randy Pinocci of Sun River. And he says that I'm still intrigued by this. Thousands of Montanans asked him to sponsor the bill and that the goal is to protect children. So I'm just going to grab that phone call. John, good morning. You're on Talkback. Can I have your first name, please?
Hi, this is Representative Tom Woods calling in.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Great.
How are you today?
I'm going to put you on hold and let John pick you up there. So go ahead. Okay, let's get Kevin on. Kevin, good morning. You're on Talkback. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I completely agree with that bill.
Do you really?
You betcha.
Why is that?
I think if the government's going to support a drug habit, it's time to put a stop to it.
Well, now, let me ask you something, because it says here, and maybe my mocking this was out of turn. It says House Bill 200 would require people who apply for assistance under the state's Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program to fill out a drug abuse questionnaire. You know, do you take drugs? Well, no, of course not. Who is going to write down, yes, I'm a drug addict. Yes, I mean, is anybody going to do that, do you think?
I don't think they're going to answer the questionnaire right, but I think they should have to pass a drug test to receive assistance. Okay,
now, but the only people who would have to take a drug test are it says the applicant would take a drug test if staff determines a problem could be likely. That would have to be determined by the questionnaire.
Well, then it's a worthless law because everyone will lie on the questionnaire.
I would think so.
I don't think it's necessarily based off the questionnaire. I mean,
I think they would rework that law to say, anyone that's applying for assistance should have to pass a drug test.
Just everybody. It's a blanket statement. Let everybody who wants public assistance has to pass a drug test.
Everyone who applies for public assistance.
Yeah, well, and that way it wouldn't be discriminatory, right? I mean, if everybody has to take the same test, then there's no discrimination.
I actually like, Ellie Hill said she was going to amend this. She's doing it tongue-in-cheek, but she was going to make it so that all state-provided health insurance including that for legislators would also need to take the drug test.
That sounds good to me.
Not a bad idea, judging from recent history.
Okay, so you think basically the way it's planned here, it's not very workable?
No, it's worthless if it's questionnaire based on the test.
Yeah, and then it says here those who refuse to fill out the questionnaire altogether simply wouldn't receive any public assistance at all.
Well, you'll see a percentage of lazy people that won't do that too. But.
Yeah. All right. Well, I sure appreciate the call, Kevin. Thank you. All right. Thanks for the call. And Wes, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Yes, good morning. I just caught coming into that. So my thoughts on that is I have to drug test, and I agreed to be randomly drug tested to have my job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, or escapes. And if I refuse it, that's a condition of hiring. I don't get the job.
Okay.
Or if I fail the drug test at any time in employment and they're random, I lose my job.
No.
I think, our tax dollars, my tax dollars, go to pay people who are on assistance. I don't think there's anything unreasonable to ask people who want help to take a drug test.
Now, what do you think about what it says here? Anybody who applies for assistance would have to fill out a drug abuse questionnaire. And I'm trying to imagine what this questionnaire would look like. Do you take illegal drugs? Yes? Yeah. No? Well, let's see. How should I put this? Wow. Should I say yes? Or should I say no?
They're not illegal in Colorado.
Well, I think it should be blanket. I mean, there are numerous jobs out there. I'm out here by the Y, and you see all the trucks, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these truck drivers have to pass drug tests.
Lord, I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. And so why not those that are going to be on public assistance? And I realize not everybody, I'm being generous here, not everybody on public assistance wants to be there, and it should be a kind of a stopgap to keep them off the street and help them while they're moving ahead back to looking after themselves. However, we have generations in parts of this country, even in our valley here, generational people on public assistance, and that really should stop. And I think one of the ways is drug test. And if you fail the drug test, guess what? You don't get it. Well,
now this is interesting. At the end, it says here, people who test positive, if they do take a drug test, wouldn't receive benefits unless they agree to complete a 30-day treatment program. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's fine too. The flip side is, say I discover I've got a drug problem or I have an alcoholic problem. Because if I go to work and they breathalyze us, which they do, and I fail that, I lose my job. But if I come to them and I say, hey, I've got a problem, I'm dependent on this drug or that drug or alcohol, they will actually get me into a treatment program. I've seen it happen where guys have gone on a meth bender, comes down, and the safety hand found him crying on the side of the road. He hadn't slept for 4 days, but he said, I have to keep my job. I got a problem. The boss goes, we've never had one of these, but the guy got into a program and was in counseling. Of course, he's subject to random tests.
Well, of course.
But he kept his job, and that's been 2 years ago.
Yeah, the whole idea is being upfront about it, right?
Exactly. And if you come forward and ask for help, that's one thing. But if you're trying to game the system, and I've seen people do that too, and they've gotten caught and they've lost their jobs.
Right. Hey, Wes, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Have a great day.
Take care, sir. Go ahead, John.
I think this is one of those things where the spirit of the law really matters. Because I think that left and right, Republicans and Democrats in the state of Montana really, truly want our social safety net to help people.
Absolutely.
And to get them on their feet and having a proper life and not tied down with all of the dark demons that can get us.
So that they can go forward and have a productive life and not stay on these benefits forever.
And so it's really, I think, a lot of this is up to the legislators that want to sell this idea. Is this a way to stick it to the people that are just abusing the system, or is it a way to make sure that the system works for those people, even those people with drug addictions in our society?
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'd love to keep talking about this. If you would like, if you have an opinion or thought, maybe you have a better idea, we'd love to hear it. 721-1290 is our number, and we have two lines open right now. It's 721-1290. Hey, you got Talkback right here on KGVO AM and FM, of course online at newstalkkgvo.com. Kicking around this idea. Now, you just had a very interesting...
I had an epiphany.
Quickinick.
Yeah, so we have at 8:30 Tom Woods coming on. to talk about what he sees as special privileges afforded to NorthWestern Energy by laws that he thinks are outdated and need to be changed now that NorthWest Energy owns a bunch of dams and other power-generating materials. Anyway, his co-sponsor on this bill is a Republican, Mr. Panici, who drafted this bill that we were just talking about dealing with drug testing for people looking for aid. Now, my question is, I know some states have gotten in trouble trying to add extra hoops for people to access federal aid. So would this just be for statewide programs?
This is statewide programs, it says here.
Now, would that include the statewide, because it is privately run, if the governor gets his way?
Ooh, Medicaid.
The Medicaid expansion.
I don't know. Doesn't say. Maybe we can get him on and talk about it. Craig, thanks for calling and thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Good morning, listeners. I never take up much of your time, so please allow me to fully comment on this.
Go right ahead.
But nonetheless, years ago, you pulled somebody over, or an officer did, and he checked him out, and if he couldn't walk the line, if his eyes were glassy or whatever, you handcuffed him and you hauled him in for DUI. And this drug testing crap is bull. Now, maybe for this here welfare stuff's another thing, but these lawmakers, they pass laws that they don't adhere to. Now, they're handling the most important things in our country, and they don't take drug tests. And it's not too hard to determine when an employee comes in and he's loaded or whatever. You tell him, go home, don't ever show up like that again, or you're fired.
Well, Craig, there is one way to solve that problem.
Yeah, a drug test.
No, that is that whenever someone goes to the Secretary of State and files to run for office, that along with that application, they have to take a drug test.
We'll take your papers and your pee.
That's right.
And then after that, get loaded, man. Yeah, that's just bull. My president doesn't take a drug test. And it's just ridiculous. They want to impose these certain little rules on us, but they don't apply to them. They're privileged people.
Well, you know what? We're going to have a legislator on here in a few minutes. We'll ask him about that, okay?
Okay, and quickly, one more comment, if I may.
Go ahead.
It isn't on that. But, these Muslims doing cartwheels over the depiction of whatever that...
The Prophet Muhammad, right.
Yeah, whoopee. They burn our flag and everything else, and we're not out there acting like a bunch of baboons and stuff, and Americans are pretty doggone disappointing because I think we really need to be out there doing cartwheels with them, and showing them that we don't like them burning our flag.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Good day, gentlemen.
Thanks.
I love your show.
Thanks
That's
for
why
the
you
call.
hear from me.
Well, we appreciate it. Norm, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Good morning. My thing is I agree with some of that to a point, but and there's another thing they're leaving out is the alcoholics that are out there. And then my other concern is that the amount of drugs that are being pushed over the counter around this country are ridiculous. Like, say, this evening you want to sit down from 5 to 7 o'clock and watch the news.
Oh, and it's terrible?
I watched two of them at one time, and all of the commercials, in those 2 hours, there are between 17 and 19 drugs pushed to the public.
And they all have outrageously dangerous side effects.
Yeah, the side effects are worse than what they're trying to cure.
Your head will pop off after 60 days.
Right. And then I had one question for you to ask your representative when he comes on later, is about the energy thing. There last year, actually I think maybe it was the year before, there was an article in most of the papers about NorthWestern not cooperating with all of these individuals who had green energy that they were trying to sell back to them on the thing. There were a bunch of disputes about cost or right to connect and all these different things. And I never did hear any more as to the outcome of this deal. And I would really like to know, are they going to cooperate with individuals like yourself or me who want to, put up a couple of wind things and provide a little extra energy and sell it back to them?
Well, let me just rephrase the way that I saw that situation, because I think we might have had someone on Talkback about it, or maybe I did a news story. But the problem wasn't necessarily that NorthWestern Energy wasn't accepting it. It's that they were charging people. Basically, when you put your energy into the system, they have to offset it, was their argument. And so it costs them money to offset it, etc. Anyway, it was a state law problem, not NorthWestern Energy's issue.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to know. Well, what was all the deal? Because I heard a lot of people that were complaining, and there were some people that were happy, and I kind of wanted to get a definite on it because I mess around with green energy a little bit, and you don't want to waste your money somewhere if you're not going to get anything back on it.
Right. We'll ask Mr. Woods. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Rob and Dave, we have a line open, 721-1290, and we're going to come right back, continue talking about this. Obviously, Rob and Dave want to make a comment, and we'll get to them in a moment. Hey, thanks for joining us on Talkback. Our number is 721-1290. We have one line open, but we've got Rob and Dave both waiting to visit. Rob, first of all, thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
You betcha. Good morning, guys. Hey, just a little different perspective on this. My brother and I were raised by a single mom on welfare.
Sure.
And she was a pot smoker. And if this law was in effect, how would it have affected us?
Well, now, perhaps if she had filled the questionnaire out, accurately or truthfully, she might have been given a 30-day treatment program to help her get off the drug and help her be more healthy. Would that be a good thing?
Well, that would have been a good thing if that was reality. But a lot of times that's not reality. And I just wonder how it affects kids. I mean, we both grew up full public assistance, free lunches, everything at school. And by the time we were 18, we're both good jobs. We've never been on public assistance since we broke the chain of.
You proved that it is not necessarily so, that it's generational in nature.
And I wonder how this law is going to affect the children that are innocent in this.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of people wonder maybe the current situation for many of these children is just as horrible, right? Now, your mom was someone that was using marijuana, and frankly, I've met lots of people that have been using lots of marijuana, and although a little dazed and confused, not necessarily the most harmful drug. Okay, other drugs, let's take meth, addiction to certain prescription drugs even can really take a toll on people. Yeah. Now, if you were growing up in a house where your mother was abusing meth and not doing her responsibilities to raise you in a safe environment, would that be a concern? I mean, I am sure that there are children in Montana, 100% guarantee there are children in Montana that have parents that are addicted to drugs like meth that are also getting state assistance. And there should be some help both for the kids in those houses and for those people. I mean, we want to be able to help people to get out of that habit. And a lot of time...
But they have to want to.
A lot of times these habits are what's keeping them in a lower class.
Yeah, but they have to want to. I mean, you can't just impose this on people if they're not willing to go through with it. Am I right or not?
Well, I'd say you're right on that. I mean, they definitely have to want to. And in the case of, more, drugs like meth that are, ruining families and stuff, that's where the social workers that are involved in these welfare cases need to recognize that there's a problem, and then they need to step in.
Yeah, it's also a law enforcement issue.
But you see, they have no hammer at this point, right? So if your social worker notices this about you, your eyes are glazed, you look a little green, whatever it is, you're glowing. They can't recommend you take this test and see for sure. It's all assumptions.
Can get involved when they notice there's a problem in the home, whether the kids aren't being taken care of or whatever. They can definitely get involved.
Oh, they certainly do. All right. Well, thanks for the call, sir.
You bet.
You have a great day, and congratulations on your success, by the way. Dave, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Yeah, good morning. I have a question about narcotics and when you're on pain medication. Doctors prescribe that,
right.
And would that kick you out of the program? I mean, if let's say you're taking too much of it, and get addicted to it. I mean, it's all prescribed to you. Would this cause a problem?
Well, it says they have to fill out what is called, and I'm using the words that are right here, a drug abuse questionnaire, not a drug use questionnaire, right, but a drug abuse questionnaire.
And abusing lower tab, for example, it's definitely possible and done frequently in America.
Sure.
Now, my grandmother had cancer, and when she was on treatment, she got addicted to heroin, and as it was prescribed medication. Ultimately, initially she was not abusing it, but later on it became an abuse. Would that knock her out? I mean, who's going to judge this?
Now, forgive me. Forgive my absolute ignorance here, Dave. At what point in time were our pharmacists or doctors allowed to prescribe heroin?
Well, it's a derivative of heroin.
Oh, okay. So it's an opiate.
Oxycontin.
It's a cancer.
Oh, okay. OxyContin. Okay, gotcha.
Which is actually, I believe, an opiate.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
It's a different thing, but it's the same. It's basically a change of name. Okay. It's a heroin derivative.
Oh, it is. Okay.
But it is all relevant to. I mean, at one moment you're legal, and the next minute you could fail a test. And it's just a question mark.
I think it's a good question. I think here's the thing. My take on this. I haven't read the bill. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk with the guy that designed it. But giving the social workers that are administering these goods and services, the safety net stuff, a little bit more flexibility, I think would be good. To make hard and fast rules, this, then this, this, then this. I mean, it might not always be the best scenario for a family.
Well, there has to be a structure of some kind.
Well, yeah, but there is a structure. I mean, this is an addition to a structure that already exists.
Okay,
right?
All right.
Well, it's good questions to be. I'd like to see the bill carefully.
Yeah. We'll try to get them on and talk about it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if it's ever going to get out of committee. But anyway, it's interesting, and I think people all over the country are talking about it. 721-1290. We'll come right back. And, we have Greg. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's get Greg on. Greg, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Yeah, I just curious. I know of a couple of retired counselors, one from Big Sky and one from Frenchtown, and they were the biggest potheads that there ever is around, and they never were drug tested. And one of them was even a counselor to counsel against drug and alcohol abuse.
Wow.
And I'm curious, why is it school teachers, government workers, I want to know how many of those social workers that are going to be going out to do these things to these people on welfare.
I'll tell you
how many of them are on using pot themselves?
I'll tell you what, Greg. Here's what we're going to do. We have Dr. Alex Apostle for his monthly visits coming up on Thursday, and that is one question. Either we'll ask him, or if we don't, you can call in and ask him. Okay?
I would sure like to find out that answer, because these guys are retired now, and they were breaking the law all the time they were working.
Interesting. All right. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. And we're going to get Tom Woods on here in just a second. We'll take a break. He's from House District 86 out of Bozeman. And we'll be right back with more of Talkback in a moment. It's the Tuesday edition of Talkback, and we're talking legislative stuff. I'm Peter Christian. That's John King, our show producer. On the phone right now from House District 62 is Tom Woods, a Democrat from Bozeman. And Tom, first of all, thank you for taking time out of what you have already described as a very interesting time at the Montana legislature to be with us today. We appreciate it.
You bet.
So do you see any interesting stunts? I mean, does anyone pull out the old branding iron or anything anymore?
I haven't seen the branding iron come out yet, and I think, each legislative session is its own sand painting with its own cast of characters, and I think it's just going to get, stay tuned. It's going to get interesting.
Well, I mean, he was an attorney, Mr. Bullock, so maybe he can give a speech that will just bore the veto bills to death.
I've seen enough of that around here.
Well, okay. Just so our listeners know, Talkback history real quick. We had Tom Woods on not too long ago. He came on and talked about some potential legislative rule changes that were going to happen or could have happened at the State House. A lot of them ended up not happening.
Yeah, which is great.
And we are now speaking with Tom about some concerns he has for a company NorthWestern Energy. Now, we had Bob Rowe on just, 4 or 5 days ago,
Right,
to discuss what NorthWestern Energy is doing, how they're handling the transition to these new dams that they've acquired. And Tom believes that they are getting special treatment and are getting some basic taxpayer backup in a way that other companies, even other businesses, other companies that are in the same business as NorthWestern Energy, aren't getting. So I was hoping Tom could kind of explain that and the bill that he's proposing to fix that. So welcome to the program, Tom.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's an important issue, I think. And, it's one that has it's evolved over the last 20 years or so. And my problem here, the issue that I want to address is that basically NorthWestern Energy can't lose when it comes to running power plants. They are guaranteed, as I see it, they are guaranteed by statute to make a profit on their power plants, whether their power plants are running or whether they're broken down. And this is a situation that has, as I say, evolved over the past 20 years because, originally NorthWestern Energy, after the breakup of Montana Power, they were just all about wires and poles. That's what they did. They were given they were sold the right to distribute energy. And so during that time, when that's all they did was be a distribution company, we had statutes put in place that guaranteed that they would make a profit whether or not the power plants went down or not. And that made sense. They shouldn't be held responsible for costs if the power that's being given or being sent to them goes down. Well, times have changed, and now NorthWestern Energy owns lots of power plants and power generation capacity, and yet these statutes are still in place, that they are guaranteed profit whether their plants are running or not.
So tell me real quick, the guaranteed profit thing. Yes, energy is a regulated market. That's why there's a public service commission, right? And so they have different rules. It's not free market like other businesses and entities in the state of Montana. So they're going to have a little bit of different rules. Can you explain how NorthWestern Energy is being treated any different than other energy producers in the state of Montana?
Well, let's look at what happens when a power plant goes down. NorthWestern Energy, they are guaranteed to they do not have to contribute towards that cost, whereas Montana Dakota Utilities, which is another power company within our state, does. And that's, as I see it, that's not okay. And I'm saying that it's not that they put this in place while they owned power plants. It's because these statutes were in place when NorthWestern Energy was a different company, when they were just all about distribution. So times have changed, and the statute has to change along with it.
Now, let me ask you this. Obviously, the way that you see it, it seems to me, is that we made laws for one company. That company changed dramatically in the services that it provided and the services that it performed, and that our laws need to catch up with those changes.
That's a good way to put it.
And my question for you is, are there already protections in the law through the PSC? Can the PSC make sure that abuses aren't taken by NorthWestern Energy?
Well, what this bill is about is that currently, when a power plant goes down, NorthWestern Energy can pass those costs on directly to the consumers. That's not okay. And what this change in statute will do is when the power goes out or when they've incurred costs at their power plants, then those increase in costs then go to the PSC, and the PSC decides. Look, we put the PSC together to do this, to make these decisions, to make sure that both the company and the consumers, us, are being treated fairly. So let's let it do its job. These automatic pass-throughs, not okay.
All right. Now, my question for you, Tom, is when we had Bob on earlier this week, and I asked him about this specifically, and I want to find out if you have any problem with it. The fact that he used to be with the Public Service Commission, as a couple of years goes by, and now he's all of a sudden the CEO of a company that he used to regulate. So for some reason, that has always kind of stuck in my head as like, that's just a little bit sideways. Did you have any problem with it, or does it seem like a sweet deal to you, or what?
Well, I tell you what, I can't speak to that. I've spoken with Bob a few times, and I think he's a nice man. And I don't want to talk about what his career has been like or what his trajectory has been.
Okay.
But I will say that this statute, as written, is a sweet deal for them, and I just don't think it's good business. I don't think it's good for the consumers, and so that's why I'm going after it.
So what would your bill do differently?
What it will do differently is that, currently if NorthWestern's power plant breaks down, they have to buy power from somewhere else. They are guaranteed to make the same profit while that plant is down as when it's running. They get to also pass those costs of buying replacement power on directly to consumers. That's the way it is now with the statute we have.
So it's kind of a double dip.
It is kind of a double dip. And what this statute will do is we're going to treat the NorthWestern Energy like we treat Montana Dakota utilities. Basically, NorthWestern Energy is going to have to have some skin in the game when it comes to running their power plants. It's going to cost them when it goes down, or at least the Public Service Commission is going to make the decision of, hey, this is justified that you can pass this on, and maybe this one isn't. Depending on how they manage their equipment.
Okay, and with that, we're going to take a little break. We'll come right back. Tom Woods joining us from Helena. He's from House District 62 in Bozeman, and we'll be right back. We'd love to take your phone calls. We have one line open at 721-1290 if you have a question. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. John King, Peter Christian, Tom Woods joining us live from Helena, right there in the Capitol building. And you have a message from one of our listeners.
I have a message from one of our listeners. I also wanted to tell our listeners, Tom wrote up an op-ed about this issue. If you want to go read it, it's on our website. I published it on our Talkback Facebook page for this morning.
Excellent.
Anyway, Larry wanted to ask you, Tom, if your rule change would apply to wind turbines and other energy-producing, other energy-type plants, including green energy plants.
Well, what this would apply to is the company at NorthWestern Energy. And so if NorthWestern has power generating capacity of those types, then I assume it would apply to it.
My question to you is this. So with the rule change, does it make it obviously puts more risk on these energy producers, but a lot of the risk that they're holding in these plants, a lot of these are huge plants. Could they bring down a company like NorthWestern Energy if there was an outage at a dam?
Well, I would hope not. What it does, though, is, as you say, it does make them assume, you call it risk. I call it responsibility for maintaining their generating capacity. And I think that's probably a good thing to do. You make better decisions if you have to take responsibility for those decisions.
Yeah, typically one would hope, yeah. So I guess my question behind that was, so let's just assume that the taxpayer, because right now really the taxpayer is the one that's carrying the risk,
or the ratepayer,
or the ratepayer.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yep.
And so if it shifts back to the energy company has an outage at a dam, could that take down a company like NorthWestern Energy without a guarantee?
I can't answer that. I haven't looked at their books, but gosh, if plenty of other energy companies can manage themselves, I think NorthWestern can do it too.
Well, they just put together a deal to buy 11 hydroelectric dams. So hopefully they got a pretty good business acumen going on. I'm hoping anyway.
I'm hoping as well.
Well, since we got you on, I wanted to get a little bit of a taste of what the legislative session has been like in the eyes of one of the Democratic representatives. Obviously, a little bit of a minority in the House and the Senate here.
Just a little
bit. And in fact, I was speaking with another representative the other day, and he was talking about Health and Human Services subcommittee or committee, and the fact that there's only 2 Democrats on that committee. What his Democratic coworker injured her arm, broke it, I believe, maybe skiing. I don't know how. I'm just assuming here, and showed up for work either the same day or the next day after breaking her arm because they didn't want to miss any important votes, right? So
Right.
so I guess my question is, are you finding yourselves threatened? Are you finding is there a lot of animus at the House and Senate, or is it pretty easy going?
Did they make you stand in the corner? Or
No, I think that's the whole standing in the corner thing is probably done within the Republican Party. No, thus far it's been, at least in my end, it's been pretty darn collegial. I think we're still getting along pretty well, but we've got another 78 days to go.
well, it comes right down to it. You guys have some huge votes coming up. Okay, still haven't really dealt with the Medicaid situation. The Flathead Water Compact is looming, before you. And not only that, but you've got the overall,
House Bill 2.
House Bill 2, the overall budget. Is it? And of course, the infrastructure requests that Governor Bullock is asking about. The Republicans want to spend the money that we have. The governor wants to bond it out. I mean, are those things going to be? They're going to be able to slog through and get some agreements in those?
Yeah, that's a good question, and at this point, some of us are beginning to look around and start to say, when are we going to get down to these things? But it's coming. It's going to come. It's going to, there's going to be some wrangling. There's going to be arm flailing and finger pointing. But at the end of the day, we're going to do a budget.
Is there a big agenda button, or is there like a list you can go and check the wall, and the speaker has kind of lined out what issues are going to be debated when?
Well, you can there is a wall that you can take a look at, and you can see what bills are coming up. And,
so how far from now do we get to see House Bill 2 and that sort of thing?
Well, House Bill 2 is on a schedule, and on day 45, I think it's on day 45 or so, we've got to have it done by then in appropriations, and we'll bring it up to the floor, and the whole House will then have its opportunity to rip it apart and tear it up and put it back together again, and then we'll send it over to the Senate, and they'll do the same thing.
For those of us who are not synchronized with the legislative atomic clock, when is day 45?
Gosh, you would ask me a difficult question like that. It
was
well, day one was what, the 5th?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That sounds about right. Let me take a look at my
So
calendar.
that would make it January 50th.
January 40th, actually.
Is that the Gregorian calendar you're talking about?
The Patarian calendar, which is all Mondays. Every single day is Monday on the Patarian calendar.
Oh, my. No, I don't want to go there. So at any rate, it is coming. We are working on the budget. But, yeah, we've got some big issues coming up that we need to deal with.
Well, listen, keep in touch, won't you? And we just appreciate you being on with us, and let us know how the conversation goes with this bill. Interesting to see if it gets out of committee.
Well, we will be presenting House Bill 189 tomorrow to the FRET committee. That's Federal Relations, Energy, Telecommunications. That's tomorrow at 9:00. I expect a group of NorthWestern lobbyists will probably be in attendance.
I love the acronym
that's
FRET.
great.
That's
FRET,
great.
Yeah.
FRET. Yeah.
Which is better than frat.
I want to be on the grief committee.
Is there a beer committee?
Not yet. I'll work on that in the next session.
All
the
right.
Bureau of Economic Equations
and Revelations.
Revelations. There we go.
Hey, Tom, thanks so much for being with us, and you're a good sport, and we love having you on. Thanks.
Well, thanks for your interest in this.
Take care.
You bet.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. We're up against a break. What would the grade the beer committee be anyway?
Economic Revelations.
No, the bottling and empty economic revolution. I don't know.
We're reaching. We'll be right back.
This is Talk Back, and it's Tuesday, January 20th. Hey, thanks for joining us. And, well, we want to say thank Tom for being with us. But kind of not exactly breaking news. This is scratching news. And really
scratching news.
Really good smelling scratching news. Are you ready for this? You probably have already heard about it. Lottery ticket buyers in New Hampshire who dream of bringing home the bacon can now smell it as well. The state lottery in New Hampshire has released its first scratch and sniff I Heart Bacon ticket this month.
Now, this is so insensitive. I can't believe. I mean, just think of all of. If you want to participate in the state lottery and you're Jewish or you're Muslim, are you going to be offended by this?
Well, you don't have to eat it. Okay.
But you're going to be tempted.
You'll be smelling it. The state lottery has released its first scratch and sniff I Heart Bacon ticket this month, which features a $1,000 grand prize. Lottery Commission Executive Director Charlie McIntyre says players, quote, will think it's time for Saturday morning breakfast. Hey! To promote the ticket, the New Hampshire Lottery will be driving, oh gosh. To promote the ticket, the New Hampshire Lottery will be driving a bacon truck, handing out free Applewood smoked bacon samples and these scratch and sniff tickets in stores in Keene and Durham, the state welcome centers in Hooksett, and the Verizon Wireless Arena in Manchester.
Wow, they're actually handing out real bacon. So there you go. I told you.
That is discriminatory.
Can't believe it. Of all the foods to pick,
people,
bacon.
Bacon.
I was thinking, you know what? When we put
bacon.
the little ticks on our tax forms,
yes, yeah.
Every time we hit that, there should be a little essence le bacon that erupts from the pencil mark there.
The smell of money. Yeah. or how about this? Every time you send in your taxes, every time you sign it, it has the smell of waste coming out. I'm sending my money into this gigantic pit.
Flushing is down the hole.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's lots of colorful ways
to
put that up. Anyway, we need to take our break, top of the hour break, and we will have a different topic starting at the top of the hour, and we appreciate you joining us. Number is 721-1290. You can call now and get in line. You'll be the first one up after the top of the hour. Oh, second one. Welcome back to Talkback. Hour number 2 for this Tuesday, January 20th, is brought to you by Bitterroot Motors, where they've been doing it right for more than 42 years. Also brought to you by Temp-Right Service, called Teen Blue, 728-1111, and brought to you by the Mustard Seed Restaurant. And we're back for another exciting hour of talk radio here on KGVO. Not sure where that came from. That's John. I'm Peter. And let's get to the phone. Dave has been waiting ever so patiently to talk about scratch and sniff bacon.
Well, not really.
Oh, okay. Fine. Be that way. Go ahead.
Right. I heard a story, and I haven't heard any backup on the story, that the Republican Party in Montana want to change the rules on allowing voters to vote in their primaries.
Yes.
I haven't heard anything about that. Is this
so it's a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit that started, although the Republican Party officially joined the lawsuit about a week ago, maybe a little bit more than that. It's something that started with some Republican committees in various counties. I think originally there were 5 counties, and then 5 more joined. The closest to home would be Ravalli County. Basically, they are suing. They have a lawsuit against the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and a few other branches of state government that are responsible for handling the way that the elections process is. And basically, their complaint, according to their attorney, who we've actually had on Talkback to talk
Matthew
about
Montfort, right,
was that I think it's the 14th Amendment and the First Amendment, he believes are being disregarded in the state of Montana because the groups don't have the freedom, he says, to select their own candidates. Because under Montana state law, as I know, because I publicly did this last time, I typically do not vote on the Democratic ballot. However, last election process, I voted in the Democratic primary because I thought there were a lot of very important races that I would not be able to influence at all unless I switched ballots. And so I voted in the Democratic primary here in Missoula, and I was able to vote for my sheriff. I was able to vote for my county attorney.
Right.
I was able to vote for a couple other major roles here in the city that I wouldn't have had any shot at unless there was an open primary.
But
now that's fine and good for me, but guess what? That means that actual Democrats that actually uphold that system of belief and thought got their opinions watered down a little bit with jerks like me.
Right, and I'm an independent, so I would be barred from voting for Republicans, it sounds like.
In the primary.
Yeah, in the primary.
So it means that you don't get to pick if you're an independent, if you're a Green Party or whatever, you have your own separate primary. You don't get to influence who the Republicans choose to put up for their nominee.
And many times, I think, and maybe rightfully so, the Democrats or the Republicans cry, dirty pool when others to try to flood their primaries to get the weakest candidate up, so that it's kind of a strategical thing. Strategical.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the Bushism.
Strategic thing.
Strategery.
To try to keep the strongest candidate from facing your candidate, in case you're wondering if they're going to be able to make it in the general election. And the Republicans were sick and tired of that being done to them, and so they decided we're just going to sue to close our primaries so that only registered Republicans, can vote in the primary.
Well, I think it's a bad PR move, to be honest with you. I understand what they're saying, but it's not an inclusive form of government then. I mean, you should be reaching out to independents that maybe they'll stay in the Republican Party if they start voting, in the primaries all the time.
Well, by very definition, if you're describing yourself as an independent, you're not a Republican.
Right.
Right.
And keep in mind, this is not, when it comes to the final ballot, you're voting for whoever is the nominee, you're still there at the show. You're just not voting for Republican primary candidates. I sympathize with the move. At the same time, though, if they make this move, then we really need to fix the law so that certain job titles, for example, county attorney, county sheriff, are no longer partisan races, because then you get really kicked out of the loop.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in my visit, although I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, my final visit with Fred Van Valkenburg, I asked him point blank, I said, do you think the county attorney's race and the sheriff's race should be nonpartisan? He said, absolutely. He says it should make absolutely no difference what letter is beside a law enforcement person's name. It shouldn't matter at all. But he said the fact of the matter is that Republicans don't win major offices like that in Missoula County. They haven't for years, whether it's sheriff or county attorney. They've been Democrats for a long, long time. So,
if only there were giant law firms funding their campaigns and then getting pats on the back. Maybe.
Well, and then getting slapped with. Now they have to form as a PAC. Oh. So, anyway,
I wasn't singling one out in particular, but
all right. All right.
Dave, any more?
Dave?
Yeah. Well, if Democrats do it too, then as an independent, I'll be locked out of the primary process completely.
Now you just have to roll the dice for the general election, buddy.
Well, no, you would. So, Dave, you would be involved in the nonpartisan campaigns, the nonpartisan primary.
Right.
But you would not be. You would not be. But what right do you have? Why should you be able to choose who's on the Republican ticket if you're not a Republican?
Well, I try to vote for the person. I try to avoid R's and D's, period, when I'm voting. That's why I'll vote for some Democrats and some Republicans. Right. I try to avoid the RD title.
Right. Cool. Well, Dave, thanks for the call, man.
Thank you.
Have a great day. And we're up against a break. 721-1290 is our number. If you'd like to comment on this, we'd love to hear from you. We have two lines open, rather. And we have lots of things to share with you about the State of the Union, the SOTU address, which is coming up tonight. We'll have a preview and some reactions, even though, I wonder why the guy even does this speech, because it's already been released and it's already been talked to death. So we will continue to talk about it even before it happens. So we're coming right back. You got Talk Back on the radio right here at KGVO at 1290 AM, 101.5 FM. And, of course, we stream on our website. You can listen anywhere in the world at newstalkkgvo.com on your radio pup or on your computer at home. So
We have a couple comments. Susan called in and couldn't stay with us, but she said, why can't we make the primary ballots like they do the final ballots, where everybody's names are on there, no matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, and you get to choose which one is the best? It's an option. By the way, there's tons of options for the way that Montana can run both its primary system and its final ballots. That's something that the Constitution leaves up to the states. And many states have very different scenarios and programs than what we have in the state of Montana. Personally, I don't think what we have is the best case, but
let's get Tim on the line. Tim, first of all, thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Hey, last night I got home, saw something on the news there, just caught a snippet of Tester talking to, I guess, our state legislature.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I just had a real problem with his talk about, I just caught a little bit of it, but he was talking about infrastructure spending and holding us up to China, saying that China spends 10% of their GDP on infrastructure, whereas we only spend roughly 2%. That's really apples and oranges if you think about it. Our GDP is $50,000 a person, and China's is $5,000.
Right.
So in reality, we're spending twice as much as China per person.
But if he's advocating that we build more ghost malls that no one goes to like China does, then maybe we should take an ear.
Well, right. I just think, I'm hoping that when he's talking to the legislature and the people sitting there are thinking enough to see through the figures that are being shot at him.
Looking back in the last year and a half or so of programs we've had on this show with various folks who are really, really familiar with the Chinese market, it's very interesting. The folks who run the Chinese economy are in big trouble. The commercial where the M&M is running along the turnstile and it's going and he keeps losing ground and losing ground and losing ground. That's kind of what China is doing right now, because they have a rapidly aging population. They still have the problems with they don't want any female babies. They still have that the one child policy. And they have people coming into the job market at a very rapid pace. People are moving out of the rural areas into the urban areas. They want jobs. They want energy. They want places to live. They want a higher standard of living.
They want to breathe.
Yeah, well, breathing would be nice. And so that's why there's a coal-fired plant almost on every corner. They're frantically trying to keep up with their energy demands. And you wonder at what point it's all going to come tumbling down.
It sounds a little Dickinsonian, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So anyway.
Well, I just have a problem with the fact that I keep hearing politicians holding China up as an example of something we should be doing, and there's nothing about China that we should be aspiring to.
Well, we should probably have a Maoist revolution that sets us back 50 years, and then it'll look like we're having a remarkable recovery.
And this program could be the herald of the new, the cultural revolution.
Right. And also, I guess my final comment on the issue of the closed primary thing. I used to be in the same situation as your last caller, an independent, and always felt that that's not a good deal to lock out the independents, because then now you can't vote. Even though I was typically voting Republican, I always had the same idea, saying, I don't want to put a label on myself. I'll vote for who I think is best. Now, this administration has cured that for me. Now I'm a checkmark Republican, in fact, Tea Party. So I don't have the issue anymore with what he's talking about.
All right. We sure appreciate your call. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day and call again. I think it was a first-time caller for him. So, Alan, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Yeah, good morning. I have to chuckle every time I hear the government talk about infrastructure, because I recall in about 2009, we had something called a stimulus bill.
Right.
As I believe that was...
Shovel-ready jobs, Alan.
Yes, and infrastructure, and we had $860-some billion.
Yep.
That was earmarked to fix the infrastructure.
Putting people back to work with shovel-ready jobs.
Where did all that money go if our infrastructure still needs fixed?
Well, they did put up a lot of signs. I remember they put some signs up on Russell Street.
Right.
Oh, now they got to take them down.
And then there was a sign back there. Actually, I went to a park with my kids the other week that was a product of that.
Wow.
It's a secret park back off of River Road. You know where that is?
Yes, I
yeah,
know
okay.
River
So
Road.
if you travel back there and you squirrel around in the side streets, it looks like you're driving up to someone's house, like a little cul-de-sac street, and there's this little secret park tucked away behind the fences there. I kid you not. I felt like Indiana Jones or something. So I find this park, and it says right there. It's
How'd you find it?
I had heard about it.
Oh.
You know, I'm on the secret news wire for hidden parks in Missoula.
Yeah, you're on the Alex Jones secret park deal. Yeah, okay.
Illuminati Park is what it's called,
right.
actually. Anyway, the Recovery Reinvestment Act signs there for everybody to see. And it's a nice little park. It's got really interesting park features, kind of like the newfangled playground design. Lots of stuff that you stand on and it spins around. And
cool.
Momentum stuff going on. Anyway, it was a really cool little park, but it was one of those Recovery Reinvestment Act.
There you go.
Yeah, and one more comment on the closed primary.
Go ahead.
That was started by the Ravalli County Central Committee. They initiated that action. And just to comment, don't I, as a Republican, shouldn't I have the right to choose my candidates instead of somebody coming in from the Democrat Party and choosing them for me?
I hear that. Yep.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yep. Hey, thanks, Alan.
You bet.
Now, some people have told me, especially when it comes to sheriffs and the county attorney, that it should be partisan because that way it'd be much easier for the candidates to raise money if they know the particular donors. And for instance, the Democratic donors are usually pretty generous. However, I would think if it was made nonpartisan, that you could appeal to a wider audience for fundraising to say, look, here, I'm Joe Schmo and I'm running for sheriff. I'm not beholden to any party. I'm not beholden to any platform. I'm going to represent you as the citizens of Missoula. I'm going to, do my best to be the best law enforcement officer. I'm going to uphold the Constitution, and I need your help. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, that doesn't matter in this case because I'm running on a nonpartisan basis. I'm just thinking you might be able to raise more money that way.
Raising money is like sports betting. I mean, that's really what it's like. And especially, I'd like to meet the person that says they need more money in campaigns. That first off, that's what I'd like to see. But second of all, I mean, people, the way they throw money around and the way they support their parties here in the United States, it's kind of like football. It's some people's sports outlet. They don't care about you. It's the team. They're giving you money because you're part of the team.
Oh, I see.
You're part of the.
So if you're not the big
Dim
D,
Hawks
so
or the.
So you're not. Yeah, if you're not the big D, then you're out.
The Republica Patriots or whatever. I can't mix those two words together very well.
You mean the Repatriots?
The Repatriots.
And the Demahawks?
The Demahawks.
Okay. Well, Seattle is... Anyway.
There's red and blue there.
Yeah, we're going to come right back. Wow, we're going to get in big trouble here. So, Tyler, we'll get your call on here in just a moment. We have two lines open. We still want to get to the State of the Union stuff. So, eventually we will. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. All three lines are full.
I thought I should mention, since people have commented it off air to me multiple times.
Right.
Why are we having Talkback today? Well, I got a call at like...
Right.
I kid you not, they called me at 8:10 or so, late last night. I was getting ready for bed. I was planning out. I had my little folder that said I have jury duty, so don't give me a parking ticket.
Right.
And I was getting ready, all my stuff for tomorrow morning to go to jury duty. And then I get this call, and they tell me late at night that they settled and that I don't have to show up. Well, thanks a lot, because that leaves me like exactly 30 minutes where I feel rude to call somebody and set up a Talkback show. But Tom was kind enough to join us last minute anyway.
Well, we're glad he did, and we're glad you did. Tyler, good morning. You're on Talkback. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Well, since we're talking election nonsense, I thought I'd bring it to the radio, your guys' attention. Last week, my wife and I got in the mail, we live down in Lolo, we've had a bond issue that has come up, a school bond issue that has come up now twice on ballots.
And it fails by like just maybe a dozen votes each time.
Yeah. So after it failed the second time, they decided they're going to figure out how to get it to pass. And in order to do that, they're going to send out a questionnaire to everybody who lives down there. And on the questionnaire, first they give you a really short explanation of the bond issue and what they're trying to do and how it's all for the kids. And then they ask you for your responses. And the first question is, in the first bond issue, you elected, I voted yes, I voted no, or I didn't vote. Second question, on the second bond issue, I voted yes, I didn't vote, or I voted no. They're actually asking us how we voted, and then further on in the questionnaire, they ask you whether or not you have kids, why you did or did not vote, and then the very last thing is, I would support a third bond issue if, and then a bunch of blank lines so that we can just scribble out our deepest.
Now, Tyler, I have to ask you, this is a mean joke, but I remember we talked during the Parks and Bond issue in Missoula, and you called in and said that you voted for it because it was worded in such a way that you thought that the city was going to sell land in order to raise money or something like that. So was that your response? Did you say, yeah, I'll vote for it if you accidentally torture the words so that I think that it means something opposite of what it is?
When you make me vote yes or vote no to support shooting it down or it's backwards the way people vote. But I don't understand why the school board thinks that they deserve anybody's explanation on how they voted. Isn't it point blank, clear and evident that we don't want this bond and we voted it down twice?
Well, it came really close, though, Tyler. I mean,
shot down twice.
You can understand their frustration because, and you drive by that school and you understand why they keep asking. Because one of these days, one of those buildings is going to fall down. You know,
those buildings aren't in worse conditions. When I was a kid, I grew up in a house in Colorado that was over 100 years old that was in worse condition than them schools.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying. They do upkeep and maintenance on them school buildings just fine. They want to build an extra building in another school and another. It's all they want something else. But when is no enough?
All right.
You know, when do the voters say no?
Right.
So many times they stop asking.
All right.
Or come up with a different plan to pay
for more money? Never. The answer to that question is never.
Hey, Tyler, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. What part of no?
By the way,
don't you understand? Yeah.
This will be the 7th SOTU State of the Union address by the president. He has asked for an increase in taxes every single time so far, so we can expect more of the same.
I'm sure we can. Let's get Mike on the line. Mike, good morning. You're on Talkback.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, hey, John, this is for you. I called the state and found out what I want to know about that bill. Probably ain't worth the paper it's written on, but on the open elections, doesn't anybody remember Rush Limbaugh and Operation Chaos?
Oh, yeah,
he went
absolutely.
after Hillary?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to us here in Montana. Not in the last Senate election, the one before, where the Democrats elected us an 85-year-old guy to run against a Democrat. I mean, come on. A closed primary is the logical thing to do, and that's the way it should have always been. Because I know I switch back and forth. If I see a really dumb candidate on a Democrat side, I'll vote for that just for the pure fun of it.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, that's all I got to say. But thanks, John. I got what I needed. And just for everybody listening, 444-4800. This is how you get a hold of your state legislature, and this is how you want to find out anything about a bill. Call that number. That works.
And they are very responsive. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the call. It's exactly 9:30, so we're going to take a quick break. So Joe and Catherine, we have a line open for you at 721-1290. If you have a comment on something that's been previously brought up, you have something new, we're kind of open phones, kicking things around. We will hopefully want to get to the State of the Union, but if we don't, that's just fine. We'll talk about it tomorrow after it's actually been, after the address has actually been addressed or something. We'll be right back. It takes me back to the Paul McCartney concert last summer. That was great. Anyway, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. John King. I'm Peter Christian, and let's get back to the phones. People have been waiting quite a while. So, Joe, first of all, thank you for your patience, and welcome to Talkback.
Hey, I'm Joe Reed, and I'm the past House representative for House District 15, which represents the east half of Lake County.
Wonderful.
And I would like to talk about the closing the primaries, and Lake County did not join the lawsuit, but Lake County is probably the poster child for that lawsuit because the Democrat Party chairman actually ordered Democrats to cross over and vote on the Republican ticket to put a specific Republican candidate in a House seat for House District 93.
Was it successful, Joe?
It was very successful because if you look at it statistically, almost 1,000 people crossed the line and voted in the on the Republican ballot, and 1,000 people disappeared off the Democrat ballot.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And the reason I can even say this is because the person who won the sheriff's race specifically told me that the Democratic Party was told by the Democratic chairman to cross over and vote to support the sheriff. Well, if you cross over and vote for the sheriff and you only have a Republican ballot, you have a choice as to who you vote for in that House seat, too. So this actually has to go back and in the process of supporting the water compact, because the main issue between the two Republicans was one supported the compact and one did not support the compact, and the difference in vote was only 90 votes.
So let me see if I get this straight, Joe. Did the person who supports the compact end up winning the election?
Yes.
Okay, so now what I hear you saying is that there may be a problem there in Lake County with having a representative who doesn't truly represent the Republican Party voting for the compact.
Well, he actually does represent the Republican Party, but there was such a division in the people here.
Sure.
They want that there were, and it has to do with the compact.
Okay.
There's such a division in the people that it took the support of Democrats to move over and get him through the primary, push him through the primary.
But since it's legal to do, there's no...
Yeah, it's shenanigans, but it's not illegal. It seems to me... Oh, who is the individual we're speaking about anyway?
Pam Solomon, and the person who lost was Frank Delgado.
Okay. Just so your interest and our other listeners, tomorrow we'll have Melissa Hornbeim, I believe it is?
Hornbeim, yes.
Hornbeim on, and she is one of the major drafters of the
She's
Water
actually
Compact.
the attorney. She's the chief legal counsel for the Water Compact.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, she's going to be with us tomorrow to try to explain what it's all about, and we'd love to have you call and quiz her a little bit if you'd like.
Right, but the issue is that I was talking about was a primary and how outside sources can drive a primary, and people don't outside of Lake County would not understand the issue that you have the Republican Party chairman pushing the Democratic Party chairman pushing Democrats over to the Republican ballot to pick the candidate. And that's one of the... But the reason that Lake County did not enjoin that lawsuit is because of the division that exists in the Republican Party over the compact.
It's I'm sure the closer you get to Flathead Lake and the reservation, the deeper that schism grows, right?
Right. And one thing I also want to talk about on Northwest Energy, this is a sidebar, but a lot of people don't realize that there is a petition going around to stop the Kerr Dam settlement, where Northwest Energy bought Kerr Dam, has the right to buy Kerr Dam, and then turn around and reissue that same purchase over to the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribe. Right now, as we speak, there is a petition by approximately one-third of all the tribal members to stop that resolution in the tribal council to take back the dam.
Why?
And that whole issue comes down to is that there's one-third of the tribal members who feel that this will not benefit them in the long run, and that there's just a lack of trust in their own tribal government. I also work with tribal members who are being, let's say, harassed by the tribal council because they have signed those petitions. So people are going out on a limb to fight with the compact, fight with the Kerr Dam settlement, and the major victims in this are the tribal members themselves. That's the way I see it.
Interesting. Well, Joe, thanks for that perspective. We sure appreciate it.
Okay, Thank you.
Yeah, you give us a call anytime. And Catherine in Maryland, we're going to get you on in just a minute. We're up against a break. We have a line open. 721-1290 is our number. This is fascinating stuff, and we did not solicit that call. That call came from Joe, and he wanted to comment on the whole thing with the primaries. So, interesting insight, because when you live in a county and you're in the middle of it, you can see, but when you're outside the county limits, it's difficult to see what's going on in other jurisdictions. We're going to come right back with more of Talk Back in a minute. Yeah, talk back, baby. All right, 721-1290 is the number. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian. You have a Facebook comment? Go.
It's not a Facebook comment.
Okay.
It's a story that I thought I'd bring up because it is the State of the Union tonight.
Right.
One thing I think that it would be interesting to think about when you watch the State of the Union is how much...
If you watch the State of the Union.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to hear it here on Talkback tomorrow anyway, parts of it. Yeah. How much of whatever is said is actually going to be achieved? Well, some professors have been looking at the State of the Union policy edicts and how many have come through. And in a story, this is by Stephen Denon over at the Washington Times, Obama has the worst State of the Union record since Ford, study shows. Now, just so you know, Ford was only in office for 2 years,
right,
and was he was there because Nixon.
Well, he was vice president, and he became president when Nixon resigned.
And no one felt like he was supposed to be president, right?
He was just a very poor golfer and liked to fall downstairs a lot.
So anyway, here's some words from this story. Judging by his recent history, it doesn't really matter what President Obama says in Tuesday night's State of the Union address. Congress is going to ignore him anyway. Mr. Obama has the second worst record of getting his State of the Union policy requests enacted into law of any president in the last 5 decades, according to an analysis by 2 scholars that put him only above the unelected 2-year presidency of Gerald Ford. From 2009 through 2014, Mr. Obama issued 209 different calls for action from Congress in his speeches, but only saw lawmakers follow through on 64.
Wow.
That's good for just 30%. That's only slightly better than Mr. Ford's 28% success rate and is well below the likes of President Clinton, the previous Democratic president who won 44% of his policies, even though he faced a Congress more Republican than Mr. Obama has.
Right.
Indeed, Mr. Obama has set a single-year record for futility back in 2013, just after his re-election, getting Congress to pass just 2 of the 41 policies he asked them to consider. That's the worst in the last 50 years, according to the data from Professors Donna Hoffman and Allison Howard, 2 political scientists who have tracked the State of the Unions going all the way back to Lyndon Johnson's 1965 speech.
What were the 2? I want to know.
What did we do here?
Can we learn from our success? All right, let's get Catherine on first. Hi, Catherine.
Good morning.
What's up?
Well, has absolutely nothing to do with anything that's been discussed today.
That's fine. Go. It's open phone. Whatever you want.
The reason that I'm bringing it up,
I want to talk about rainbows. No, go ahead. Never mind.
What
go ahead.
I
want to talk about rainbows, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, no Skittles here.
Okay.
Okay. People's tax forms are starting to show up in the mail, and according to HR Block, they kind of issued a statement saying no one can understand the new tax code requirements for filing this year. They're almost impossible to figure due to the new reporting requirements coming online because of the health care bill, the new reporting requirements for the 2014 year. So specifically, according to a couple of articles that I've been looking at, those who file Form 1040EZ, that's usually
the super easy one, right? Yeah.
Right. We'll have several other forms to also fill out. And the IRS publication 5187 has a 21-page single-spaced instruction manual on how to fill these new forms out. Form 1095, which will go to Obamacare enrollees who received a federal subsidy. And there's also another form called Form 8962, which people will have to fill out to prove that they were entitled to the subsidies that they received.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm not a tax expert, God knows, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think maybe Walt, if he is listening, or when he next comes, to talk on the talk back.
Well, he will be here the Thursday?
First Wednesday of February.
Okay. Well, it's
February 4th. Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to, especially for those who fill out the 1040 EZ, they're going to be hit with this.
Which is, my son does that. He's, it's so easy, zips up, and not anymore.
Maybe not. now they need a new form, the EZR.
Yeah,
easier, right?
EZR, yes. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry to bring this up totally out of the blue.
Well, thanks for ruining our day with taxes.
You're
awesome.
Quite welcome. Right.
Anybody want to talk about death now? We've already had taxes.
Who wants to talk about new taxes? Oh, the president does.
Yeah.
He'll fulfill all your wishes and desires
Absolutely.
later, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right.
Okay, Marilyn, you're on Talkback. Go.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm calling in to talk about death.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. First of all, I'll mention the Lolo survey. I also got one of those, and I read their questions. And, they wanted us to fill out, identify ourselves, just plain and simple. And I ripped it up into little pieces and threw it in the garbage can. I'm not going to help them out. And they did get more than a dozen votes. They got more than 24 votes. So I think our votes count just as much as the other people's votes count. And so to the subject of death, I wasn't sure that this was going to be made mention of, so I thought I would. This Thursday is the 42nd anniversary of us.
Someone wasn't listening to our newscast this morning.
Oh, well, maybe I was.
Because I interviewed the gal from the Concerned Women of America, and they're having a rally in the Capitol Rotunda at noon on Friday.
Okay, yeah.
And so just to hedge off at the pass there, pro-life rally, because the 1973 Roe v. Wade coming up on Thursday, and then so there'll be a pro-life rally on Friday.
Right. So for a country that claims to value life, we have had abortion on demand. We've been murdering our children for profit and convenience for 42 years, and it's time for it to end. And Congress has enough votes this time. They're trying to pass a 20-week pain-capable, it's called the pain-capable bill. And so everybody needs to call their congressman and tell them to vote
on
Marilyn. That bill to end abortion once and for all.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Appreciate your call. Craig, we're going to get you on. We have a 1-minute break, last break of the show. It's only 1 minute. We'll be right back. Get Craig on. We have 2 lines open, 721-1290. Talkback rolling right along. It's been a great 2 hours almost. It just flies by when you're having fun. And let's get right back to the phones and say thank you to Craig for holding. Good morning, sir.
Yes, I didn't vote for President Obama, and I really don't like the guy. But I must say that until he was elected, I don't ever remember our president being referred to as Mr.
Mr. President
Obama,
is
Mr. Nixon,
that's
whoever.
That's how we've been referring to the president since George Washington.
Well, I don't know.
No, I'm not joking. I know this. They asked him, "What should we call you?" Because you have to understand.
President.
At the time they were asking because America's first on the scene, democracy. Most other countries have kings, right? And so everyone's like, "Your Highness, sir," right? And so they asked him, well, "What do we call you?" And he said, "Mr. President will do."
Well, even former congressmen, they say, when you watch some of these news programs, they say Mr. Congressman.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a beautiful legacy in America that we treat our president in a way like other people, because he represents the common American.
Yeah, and you're honoring the office,
John,
too.
So you can get other callers.
No, you're honoring the office, too. So anyway, whether or not you like or agree with the policies of whoever's the president, at least you're saying Mr. President, or if the time ever comes, Madam President.
Here, I'll read this. This is from Wikipedia, and what I was saying was basically right. Adopted by the President of the United States, George Washington, as his official manner of address as head of state. Mr. President was subsequently used by other governments to refer to their heads of state as well. It has a longer history of usage as the title of the presiding officers of legislative and judicial bodies. It is the conventional translation of the non-English titles such as Monsieur le Président for the President of the French Republic. Anyway, it has a long legacy here in the United States. It certainly didn't start with Obama.
Yeah. And for instance, when the guy, the chairman of the arms, what do they call it? The sergeant at arms comes walking down the aisle, and says, Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Now we could, maybe as soon as 2016, have a Madam President.
We'll see.
Some comments on our Facebook page. Okay. Elena wants to know, private energy producers are regulated by the PSC. Are municipal producers? I would think not. In a similar way to that utilities like water, for example, mountain water, if it were a shift to the city, would not be governed by the PSC. It'd be governed by your local government and the voters in that district. I would assume municipal producers would also not be under the PSC. Kitty wants to know, my question about the State of the Union address tonight, if he increases inherited revenues from inherited wealth, how does that affect ranchers, farmers, and others that have had their holdings for generations that may now need to liquidate? By the way, who is going to feed our nation if we keep losing those who feed us? Most ranchers and farmers have little cash, but wealth through generational inheritance. Now, that is one of the things that has been bandied about on top of free 2-year college tuition.
We have this 2-minute deal, and we have like 3 minutes to go. Should we play this?
No. The one with the president talking, I know what it is.
Okay.
I've heard it. It's boring.
Okay.
But play the other one.
Okay.
Because he does talk about this question that Kitty has.
And this is only 43 seconds.
Yeah, it's short.
Here we go. Stand by. Hold on. Let's.
Who is it, real quick?
This is Larry Sabato. Mr. Roboto. Here we go.
The substance of the Obama administration, the 2 years remaining, be unilateral, just as he said. President's going to do it on his own. Legislative proposals are more for the public relations of it. Some of these things are very popular. The president's proposing eliminate the trust tax provision that really affects only a few hundred Americans who can leave millions and millions to their kids and reduce their taxes. That's for the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1%. Obviously, that will be popular. But he's really creating a platform for Hillary Clinton or another Democratic nominee. He's building a bridge to 2016.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very popular, except for with people that actually owned land. And as Kitty brought up, if you are a large landowner, you own a farm here in Montana,
right?
It can be very difficult to transfer that inheritance down to your children and keep the family farm if the government wants to take its tax fangs to it.
Now, here's a question for you, and this might be something worth looking at, because he makes the address to the joint session of Congress, okay? All of Congress is there, the Senate and the House. The Supreme Court is there. The Cabinet is there, okay? Where do you suppose Hillary Clinton will be seated? Will she be up in the president's box with Michelle Obama and the family up there? And because they always have guests, to sit with them. Sometimes it's a disabled veteran or perhaps someone who represents the poor and up in the presidential box. I'm really interested to see where Hillary is going to be seated because I think it's very strategic.
Hopefully the Castro family and Kim Jong-un are up in the box. Thank you for strengthening relations with our country.
Yeah. And that whole thing with Cuba, I don't know. The more I think about that, I'm thinking Raul Castro says, we just waited him out and we won. We beat the United States of America. Yeah, we starved half our people to death to do it, but by golly, we came out on top. We didn't have to give anything away. We got what we want. We get to sell our cigars to people now, to Rush Limbaugh. And so we won. So way to go.
I doubt that they're going to feel that way.
Anyway. Well, that's actually, we're out of time. So what's coming up on tomorrow's fabulous program?
As mentioned earlier, Melissa Hornbeim will be on to talk about the Water Rights Compact, the ins and the outs.
And Congressman Ryan Zinke, hopefully in the 8 o'clock hour.
That's right. Response to the State of the Union address.
The SOTU, State of the Union, in case you like acronyms. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Drive safely out there, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.